Well, hello, guys. Hello, hello, hello. Today is the 10th of October, and we are at what? I don't even remember the episode that we're on. We've been going and going every Saturday, and I'm excited because the first phase of this talk show is really about, finding self, discovering self, and, I've had the pleasure of bringing wonderful guests on here to really just talk with them and really figure out, how it is that they're discovering themselves and, the advice that they have for people out there trying to discover themselves. As I always say, I'm a work in progress. So I'm constantly learning from every guest that I bring on my show. But guys, today is a very interesting episode. We're going to be talking about navigating expectations versus reality. And that's a thing because I think each and every one of us have our expectations. We want this, we want that. But for some way, and sometimes our expectations don't really align with our reality, thereby causing frustration, annoyance, and all that stuff, right? But before I start rambling like I always do, I just want to bring in our guest for today. Guys, please help me welcome Onika Griffith Elliott. Hey, girl. How you?
Hi, I'm well. I'm really good, thanks.
Of
I'm
course. I'm excited to have you on today. Are you
Thank
excited to
you
be
for
on?
having me.
Are you
Sorry,
excited to be on
I
today?
am so excited. Thank you so much for having me. I'm looking forward to this conversation. It's going to be fire.
I'm excited too. My next guest today is Ruth Bennett. Hey, girl, how are you?
Hello, I'm good, thank you. Yeah, it's
Love
lovely to
your
see you.
smile. I love that. I love the smile of both of you. You're just bringing in the light. I mean, I'm excited for this conversation. Guys, can you just let's just start by like introducing ourselves. I mean, I love your accent, but our listeners want to hear where you guys are from. I'm gonna start with you, Anika. Go ahead.
Okay, hi. I'm Anika Griffith Elliott. I am an award-winning consultant and business analyst, and I am a wife and mum of two, a tween and a teen, who keep me very entertained, never a dull moment, around helping other business owners find their fire by finding hidden profit in their businesses.
Nice. So where are you based, Anika? Where are you located?
I'm in Southeast London, so yeah, just on the edge of London and loving it. We've been through lockdown.
Is it cold there? I'm sure it's cold.
It's getting colder. I almost put on like a high neck today. I feel the cold, and it's definitely changing.
Compared to Texas, it's still a little bit hot over here. 88 degrees.
Lucky
So,
you. We're almost down to
Ruth,
single digits here.
I know, right? Ruth, how about you? Tell us a little bit about you, where you're from, and all that good stuff.
Oh, thank you. So I'm Ruth. I come from East Anglia in the UK, which is very flat and very rural. So I live with my two cats, my little old dog, and I have a parrot as well who's going to be quiet tonight and not join in. I'm an intuitive life coach, hypnotherapist, NLP practitioner. So my thing is to empower people to live their truth and the way that they should be living, which is lovely.
Yes, I love that. I love that. I'm excited about this conversation. And the reason why is because I have really struggled myself sometimes to navigate between, or to navigate my reality and my expectations. We have a laundry list of expectations because we're human beings, right?
Mhm.
We have 20 million expectations for ourselves, but sometimes they don't even align with our reality. So I really want us to dive into this conversation. And guys, feel free to really share a little bit of your experience, because I think, it makes it worth it. Like when you really open up a little bit so that, we get the full picture. So let me just dive right in.
Yeah.
My first question to you is, what has been the hardest part when navigating your expectations from your reality, and why? So Ruth, I'm gonna go with you first because we went with Onika the first time. Go ahead.
Okay. So the hardest part, I think, for me was living up to other people's expectations and then trying to prove who I wasn't. Like, people give you their stories, like Ruth is this, and then I was trying so hard to prove actually I'm not. I'm this, that I forgot to be who I was. And it was when I suddenly went, stop trying to fit in, stop trying to be their expectations and live their stories, and start stepping into who I am. And that's when the penny dropped, and it was totally by accident when I was on a stage talking live. I just suddenly came out with it. That went, ah! It's like a real life ka-ching moment in front of 40 women.
Right. You know what you said is right, because I think that's the hardest part for a lot of people, because they're trying to live up to other people's expectations, and they're not really looking, like you said, you really just had to look at yourself and say, like, who am I? Like, who am I? Pretty much. Not who do people want me to be?
Yeah.
But who am I?
Who am I without all the labels?
Right. And the labels, right. So like when you start coming into that space of who am I, you begin to align your own expectations with your reality, right? And then it begins to make sense, right? I think that's the hardest part a lot of people struggle with, just really navigating, like, what do people expect of me and what do I expect of myself?
Yeah.
So thank you for sharing. Onika, what about you? What is the hardest part about navigating these two things?
So mine, I think, is very similar to Ruth's, but I think mine kind of was like the next step. So when I ran my first business, I had just had my first child, and I was working and running the business, and it was full on. And I had to manage the expectations, not only my expectations, but the expectations of those around me, of what they expected of me. And it actually kind of forced me, I'll say force me is maybe not the right word, make me realize that actually fighting and kind of arguing about the expectations and discussing it actually wasn't going to solve it, because everybody has their perspectives, and sometimes they can't be resolved. No matter how much you try and have those conversations, you'll always agree to disagree. So what I realized was I just had to accept it, accept where I was, accept who they were and what their expectations were, and just kind of focus on what I needed to do. So it was less, again, not less, but not managing the expectation, but just saying, okay, this is what I'm going to do respectfully. And I'm going to take your views into account, but this is what I need to do. So that was just accepting that people were going to be unhappy with it and just getting on with it. So that for me was the biggest part, accepting that it would be uncomfortable, but you get used to discomfort.
Discomfort has not killed anyone.
No. And actually it became a norm for a while, but then, everybody finds their models. And part of the expectation of managing this discomfort was actually people were watching you manage that and seeing, I don't want to say testing you, but seeing how you would react to them. And your reaction in itself kind of resolved the issues to an extent. So that's how I managed it.
Yes, that is so important. I think, at the end of the day, you really just have to do what is good for you, right? And you said something that was very key, what it is that you needed at that time. Need, not want. It was not a want. It's what you needed to do for yourself to be sure that you were in the right frame of mind, or even the right state of mind to be there for your children.
Yeah.
Right? Because I think a lot of people, and that's a very good example that you gave, Onika, and I'll tell you why. Because even after I gave back to my kid, the same thing, like I was trying to fit into people's expectation of me trying to be the best mom. Of course, their definition of being the best mom and my definition of being the best mom were completely different, right? For me, being the best mom for my child was making sure that I was in the right headspace to be the best mom. I was in the right headspace to provide my child with what it is that they needed without inflicting my own personal uncomfort. because of things that I have not been able to achieve or things I've not been able to fulfill, right? And so for me, it was very important at the time that I gave birth to leave my baby with my mother-in-law and my sister to take a trip, because for the longest time, my life was just centered around trying to, go for my weekly sonograms and all that stuff. It was all about the baby.
Yeah.
I never took out time for my own self to just get my head together. And I thought, as a mom, that was a necessity for me to be able to do that. So I don't pour that annoyance or anger on the little infant that I just had. So it's a good example that you really gave, because I think for me, and I'm not going to lie, like for me, that was the hardest thing, like just trying to convince myself that what I was doing was the right thing.
Yeah.
Because everyone around me was like, you can't do that. You're very small, that kind of stuff. So that was a good. Go ahead. We're gonna say.
I was going to say, and I think with motherhood, it's a very difficult. It can be a difficult transition if you have been living in a certain way, and you expect that you can fit it into your life, and then you have the moment when you realize no, things are never going to be the same again. So you have to decide, what are you going to let go? What do you want to hold on to? And what are you going to have to work for? To maintain.
Right. That is so true. That is so true. And we constantly keep making it.
Yeah. I was just going to say, my biggest example of that was when I think I was 6 months pregnant with my son, and I used to take the train to work every day, this before I started the business. And in my head, I thought I could still run for the train. And it was the last time I tried to run for the train, and my mind said I could do it, and I realized my body just wasn't going to do it. And I thought, okay, I am pregnant, I'm really pregnant, and now I'm going to have to let things go. I have to slow down physically and not keep trying to maintain my life at the same speed I was living up until that point. I was like, I'm pregnant, I've got to slow down, even though I think I can do it. No, because it's not going to help me. And actually, life's going to change. So I need to take it easy from now.
No, you're right. That's important. Our own realization too, to really just not be too, I always say, give yourself grace, but also know your reality. Like, I mean, like say you were pregnant, like you couldn't be like running, like trying to, like, it was not possible. Like, it's just like, and I like what you said about like the speed. Like, life is no longer, same speed that you had when you were, when you were not pregnant. So you really have to also recognize that the speed now is a little different. You have a kid coming.
Yeah.
That
denial up until that point. I don't know.
It's good that pregnancy actually prepares us for having a child in a way, because we change so much. And like you're saying, you suddenly can't go out and you need to rest more. And suddenly the baby comes along and it's almost like this little, like the warm up type of thing. It's like, yep, I'm changing. Life is changing.
Yes. Yeah. No, you guys are right. Like it was hard for me, but the moment I started like living in my own reality. Like, I'm a mom now. You're a mom. You have to take care of your kid. You have responsibilities. Yes, you can still do whatever you were doing before, but at a different pace. You cannot just be doing like, if you were doing it at 100%, maybe he has to get to 50, and that's just what it is. Like, life, So no, you're right. But what is okay, we talked about the hardest part. What is the best part of navigating your expectations from your reality, and why? Onika, I'm going to start with you. What is the best part of doing that?
I think the best part is letting things go and actually shedding a lot of the weight and the burden of what a lot of expectation brings. Because again, with the pregnancy, I was like, well, I'm not going to be able to do things. I have to accept that. And I was a people pleaser. I mean, I still was after the baby, but I realized I couldn't do things. I couldn't maintain a lot of relationships where maybe I was the one constantly engaging because my circumstances were going to change. And then I had to decide and look at my relationships and say, well, are they actually as a kind of even, balanced, or as maybe healthy even as I wanted them to be. And if I couldn't maintain being the one putting all that effort into it, maybe it's time to let it go, or just realize that it won't be the same, and accepting that. So it was acceptance and shedding and reevaluating things, definitely. And also I think the like you say, the grace, and just not being hard on yourself, because I think especially for high achievers, or people who have always, I was that kind of person up until pregnancy, who had everything planned out, and everything changed, and it was readjusting to, well, okay, I planned this isn't going to happen, let it be, and actually leaving space. So I think that's the biggest part, giving yourself space, because you've kind of shed the expectation, or maybe change the expectation in a way.
Right. I think that's important. I think a lot of people have 20 million expectations, and they don't think that you can always amend it as you grow, and as you go and you grow. I don't think they think that you can change it. Expectations can change, So you're right. Sometimes because maybe you have to change the expectations, not because of what we're seeing on social media, of course, but because of our own reality life. Because I mean, half of the things on social media sometimes sometimes they're questionable. You don't even know whether it's right, or I mean, you can't really live your life around that. Pretty much your own reality and what it is that you're going through at the moment. Bro, what do you think? What has been your best navigating this? Like, especially as a life coach, I'm sure. What has been your best part?
My best part, I'm like the other end now, because my daughter's 22 and she's left home last year, and she's living with her fella, and she's got tattoos, and she tells me off for being untidy when she comes around to see me. I'm just like, how did this happen? So I think it's like you go through stages of life, and you have to adapt, and you have to change. For me, I went through an abusive relationship, and then I got diagnosed with trauma and borderline personality disorder. So I needed to learn how and why I could manage those conditions. So part of being a life coach was learning how I could manage all those little neural pathways that were going on, and learn to adapt. And once I discovered that, I was like, wow. It was just the most empowering thing to actually go beyond. Here in the UK, we're very keen on medication for any mental health condition, and for mine, that wasn't the answer. It just wasn't. It wasn't helping me. The side effects were just making me too unwell. So I managed to learn that, and that's the aha moment. Was then how you can work with people to take them from trauma to living without it is just incredible, absolutely incredible. So yeah, that was a real ha-ha. Took me a few years to get there.
That's okay.
But that's fine. I'm doing it at my own pace.
That's okay. I mean, it takes some of us quite a bit. I mean, honestly,
Yeah.
It didn't take me, it wasn't immediately before I realized my own. It probably took me like a couple of years before, I started realizing that, everybody has expectations from you. Everybody wants you to be this and wants you to be that, but really to be true to self, you really have to look in you and look at what it is that is real to you, and not to every other person else. Because you look to every other person else and then you're basing your expectations on that, then you're just going to be as dissatisfied as you can be, because it doesn't really align with your reality. And that's the truth. So, so I hear you. I mean, it takes a while. And again, Onika said something, awareness, it's all about like being aware, being conscious, right? Even like it could take a while, it could take a long time, but if we don't come to that awareness, that self-awareness of like, oh my God, this is what is happening, then we're just never gonna find it. So I think for any problem or issue that anyone is going through, I think honestly the first step would be like, are you even aware that it's an issue? Are you aware that it's a problem? Are you aware that you are You're trying to fit into everybody's expectation, but you're like, are you aware that that's, and then from that point of awareness, then you can start looking for, okay, how do I walk my way backwards? How do I, walk my way forward or backwards if I was doing wrong? If I was doing things, if I was trying to please people, how do I navigate all that to be sure that I'm not doing it at the expense of my own mental health, at the expense of my own kids' health, family health, those kind of things. So yeah, it takes time for sure, but once we are aware, it's beautiful.
And embracing, like, if you're gonna have tough days, that's okay. It's like, it's almost like we feel guilty because I've had a really bad day and I couldn't do a lot today and I needed to cry a lot today. That's okay. That's what you need to do. If you need to go under the duvet for a few hours and then as long as you come out the other side, it's like I always say to my clients, that's okay. Just set yourself a timer and say, I'm going to do this today, and then tomorrow I'm going to be ready. Because once you get stuck in it, it's really hard. But yeah, we don't like rest days, do we? It's like, oh, I haven't done anything today, but you've rested. We need it. And it is just accepting that part of us, that vulnerability that we have, and saying, yeah, that's okay. That's a good part of me. It's part of me.
I need to confess something. I don't like rest days, girl.
No.
I don't know how to rest. And my mentors will tell you she just can't see that. She just doesn't like to rest. She just doesn't. And I'm also, that's another thing that I'm doing in terms of working on me. Like, I'm comfortable now taking a break. Like, just like really, disconnected and trying to, retreat back to self, and I think that's a very important thing. And I never understood, because for me, a rest day felt like I was being lazy and I didn't want to do, anything. But sometimes doing nothing is beautiful. Doing nothing and just taking time for you is beautiful. I hear you. Rest days.
You can journal it and diary it and say, right, I'm gonna have me time. And I really struggle. I'm like constantly having to do something. I can't sit and watch a film. It just so what I try and do is things that are not quite work. So they might be like reading a nice book or watching, I don't know, Brené Brown. So at least I'm feeling, well, I'm watching something that I'm learning from as well, but I'm not having to put a whole load of effort. So it's almost like tricking your mind into, yeah, I'm still working, actually, I'm resting. Hey, cool. And then diary, always put in your diary every week, me time. And then it has that same significance as actually doing stuff. So little mind tips.
Yeah, it's so true. You have to protect it as you would client time. And without it, it will slip and then you will end up paying for it.
True.
True. And as you say, Noma, it's one of those things that I think if you're not comfortable with it, you have to get comfortable, because when you need it, the people around you who are used to you not stopping, that when you stop, they're like, the expectation of, why are you stopping?
Right.
Don't you? Because I mean, I was the same until, I mean, especially with my first, I had the child, my son, and it was like, well, I'd never been around children before. So there was coping with that whole transition. And then I was surrounded by mainly family members who were like, well, they just assumed that I could do things and I couldn't. So it was like, well, get on with it. It's
normal.
I can do this, I can do this, I can do this, I can do this, and I can work and I can run a business. And then I got sick. And then it was like, well, I'm not too sick, I can keep going. And then I got sick again. And it's that whole thing of, well, if you don't listen, that little whisper will become a scream and you will have to take a longer time off. So, that's one of the things I tell with my clients all the time, especially as they come to work with me. Don't feel guilty about taking time off for yourself, because actually I suggest, and something I do personally, I like doing creative things, because that, as you said, Ruth, it gets you to think differently. And it takes you out of your mind and out of your kind of maybe your focus on the negativity and what you can't do or what you're not doing right. Again, if you're being hard on yourself about something, taking you out of that space and recharging you and resetting you. And I think that's really important. So, you know, you might have something you're looking at in your business and you're not getting past it. So I say rest preferably, but if you're not comfortable resting, do something creative, because it can shift that focus and give you that kind of boost anyway. So there's different forms of, you know, taking me time or resting. It doesn't have to be.
Yeah.
I personally like sleeping and doing nothing, but I know.
But sometimes doing nothing don't work for everyone.
Pardon?
I said, but sometimes doing nothing is not for everyone. I hear you.
Exactly. But
Yeah.
I'm saying my oldest is 17 now, almost 18, and it took me, I would say, almost 5-6 years to get to that point, because I thought I had the energy and I could do it, and then I realized, no, I can't, because I keep getting sick. So
Yeah, your body tells you, doesn't it? It goes, not today.
you may not listen. You think, well, that's just a small thing, and it'll go.
Yeah.
And, yeah.
Wow. True talk, girls. True talk. I mean, I real talk. It's okay. So my next question is, where do you guys think that expectation comes from? You know, I've struggled with this question a lot. I'm like, is it what we see on Instagram? Is it visualization? Does the expectation come strictly from visualization? Or if not, like, where does it come from? Onika, go ahead.
Yeah.
So I think I was thinking about this because I thought that was quite a tricky one myself. And I was like, oh, this feels like an exam question. What am I going to say?
Like a test question.
It's a combination of things, you know. I think it's a combination of traditions. And again, that's something that, you know, I've encountered on many sides. Familial traditions, society, you know, suggesting this is how it should be. And I actually think a lot of expectation comes from comparison, because if you are looking outside of yourself, and again, if you are somebody who I was this is what's going to happen in my life. This year I'm going to do this and this and this, and then things change and shift, and you feel like you still have to walk that path, but actually you start feeling like you're behind, but you're not. And that creates expectation, internal expectation, that just ends up wearing you down and burning you out and making you very unhappy.
That's a good one. I like the comparison part, because I never thought about it that way, but you're right. We be comparing ourselves to the whole world instead of ourselves. That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's funny, but it's true. But what do you think? Where do you think expectation come from?
It's such a mix, isn't it? There's sort of like a little bit of nature being nurture here as well. It's like how you're brought up and how your intrinsic values are. So it's like, I have an older brother and a younger sister, and I'm typical middle child. And we're completely different, but we're brought up by the same mother. So it's like some of the expectations may be put on ourselves. So I was a dancer, and my expectations of dancing was I had to be the best. I had to train every day. I couldn't sit down on the sofa and watch TV. I had to be pulling my legs up to my ears and warming them up. So it was a constant push, push, push. And it took me years to get out of that working where I was going to burn out. So I think sometimes my expectations were from me, but also there was the way you looked physical. So I could go for an audition and I was physically not right. So I was physically too overweight. I was physically too short. So those things I didn't have any control on, but the expectations would cause me to not eat for auditions. And so, yeah, I work with teenagers, and the expectations on them in schools to get their A stars or their numbers now. And it used to be like A star to C. And a C was a great pass, but students would say to me, I only got a C, miss. Because it's a C. And for my daughter's prime example, she got a C for her maths, and she won't mind me saying this. And we were so proud because she really struggled for it. So for her to get a C in maths was just like phenomenal. But it was then compared. And like you said, Nika, we look at people around us, we look at people that we're training with that might have suddenly clients and I haven't, and oh my God, am I failing? And I've got friends who are happily married and I'm sat here single, and it's just like this huge, almost like social media, I don't think, has added to it. I think it's always been there. I just think it publicizes it.
That's interesting. So are you guys, I love this conversation, right? Like I like the answer to this where expectation comes from. However, what I wanted to ask was, are you saying that most of our expectations are just not real?
Ooh.
Or are you saying that they are real, but they are influenced by the wrong thing? So, Ruth, I'm going to start with you first.
Okay, yeah, I was thinking about this today and I thought, like COVID. So, and for me, I qualified in October last year. So a year ago, I was literally on my training course to do my NLP and hypnotherapy and life coaching and get qualified. Came home a month later, I was diagnosed with cancer. So I kept going. I still kept getting clients. I still kept going. And then cancer turned from grade 1 to grade 3. And all of a sudden I was in chemo in March. Then the next thing I know, we've got COVID. So all my expectations were just completely, what do I do? And luckily, I've learned over the past few years to make sure I've got a really supportive network around me. It sounds selfish, but it's actually not. You need people around you who are going to support you and not knock you down. And I had the right people around me at the right time, just like, well, we can do this online and we can do this. And I have my sort of like spiritual side of me, which was very helpful too. But I think COVID has taught us all that we have these expectations, we have these journey plans, and we just have to go with the flow sometimes. We have so little control, and we can adapt. We've obviously adapted over the centuries. Nature's adapted. We're going to have to adapt now to the way things are. Complete curveballs, but hey, we're surviving, and I got hair. I'm so proud of my hair.
I love it.
It's just like, oh, it feels so soft.
That's awesome. Anika, what did you think?
I think to an extent they're not real, because we have created them in our heads, because the expectations are only what we accept to an extent and then play out, or we accept them. So then if we didn't accept them, they wouldn't be real.
Wow. Okay. I didn't really think about it that way, but you've given me something else to think about.
That's awesome.
You know what I was saying earlier, if you choose to reject the expectation, then you're parking it, aren't you, effectively? So then it's not really affecting your life.
Right.
So then it's not real. You've chosen to leave it alone. It's just from that perspective.
That's a way of looking at it. I'll tell you that part. But I didn't think about it because, for the longest time, I've always struggled. I'm like, these expectations that I put on myself sometimes, are they real, or do they come from what it is that I'm seeing? Am I trying to, like you said, comparison, like in our work, right? We're trying to compare ourselves to the highest paid staff, or to like a senior that is higher than us, right? And because we're trying to compare ourselves, we are putting so much pressure on ourselves. We're not learning. We're not really learning. We're just trying to like get the, whatever means to take it together. And then sometimes our expectations even drive us to do some stupid things that we don't need to be doing, right? So in a way, I could see why it's unreal. But in another way, I could see how our expectations would also, I guess, push us to get out of our comfort zone, so to speak. So I guess from that standpoint, I would think maybe.
But I guess that goes back to your awareness, because if you're aware of your expectation and you're not being, I don't say manipulated, but you're not kind of being drawn into the fearful side of it, then it can be a good thing, can't it? As long as you're aware of the impact it's having on your behavior and your life.
That's a true statement for sure.
Because as you said, if it's making you do something positive, then it's not necessarily a bad thing. It's just if it's driving you to a point of destruction, then
it's not really worth it. Yeah. I see what you mean.
Over.
What did you say? I didn't hear you.
But if it actually takes over, it's almost, it's going to be a negative influence then. It's like, it's too much.
Right.
Yeah. Because I think, on the flip side, as you were saying, Ruth, that you got the expectation, and your daughter had the expectation that she's doing her best, and that in itself is supportive. It's encouraging. So it's not a bad thing, but it's real, isn't
Right.
it? The supportive side of it. So I don't know. It's all about interpretation and perspective.
I think so too, because we might be thinking that, this is really helping me be a better person, but others might be thinking, well, I mean, it's kind of like not making her be a better person. So like you said, interpretation and perspective, different perspective, different interpretation. So it could be a good thing, it could be a bad. All depends on how people perceive it and interpret it. Very true. Very true. So one question that has always bothered me is, do we have unconditional positive expectations? Because what I've seen in the past, like, so, for example, I'm going to use myself because, of course, I have my own story, right? So I always think to myself, I'm like, I want this, I want that, I want this, this nice, I don't know, nice website, or a nice, I don't know, nice car or mug. Just putting an example out there. I want this nice phone. But are you wanting the nice phone because it's going to make you happy? Or are you wanting the nice phone because of, I guess the pleasure that it gives you? So I guess from that standpoint, my question would be, do we have unconditional positive expectations? Like, if you're making your expectations, you're not tying it with the money you're making from it, but rather the happiness you're going to get. Ruth, what do you think?
Oh gosh, do you know what, an example I can think of is when I was a rep once, all the other ladies were, I'm quite eclectic in the way I look, but they were all very suited and booted, and they all had these lovely nails. And I had my false nails done. Was I happier? Was I a better rep because of it? No, it's just like, I just felt I needed to have that done and compare myself. So sometimes I think we need to try things to actually learn that it's about just us and not the peripherals or anything else. Like you said, was the phone, do we want it? Do we need it? Is it? And yeah, it's just like, oh gosh, we were talking about this the other day. When I was a kid, if you wanted to turn the television over, you had to get up, walk to the television, turn it over, turn it up. And now we have remotes, we have mobiles, we have laptops, we're talking on the internet like this. We have so much, and yet it's so much harder. And is that because the more there is that our expectations growing to yeah, exactly that, Anika. It's just like, I didn't have a telly for about a year, and everybody's like, you don't have a telly? And I was like, no, if I want to watch something, watch it on my laptop. And the shock horror with some people that I didn't have a telly. And then I suddenly thought, oh my gosh, I need to get a telly.
Right.
And to be fair, I was gifted a TV during lockdown, and I am so grateful for it, because it was a long time to sit here on my own. But it was just suddenly that I suddenly realised that I hadn't got something. Did I need it suddenly? And it was just, yeah, it's very bizarre. It's very much I think it is quite competitive sometimes with what we want and what we need, and we have it because it's what other people have. And if I'm running a business, do I need a bigger MacBook, or do I need so it's like, or can I run my business from a shed quite as well as anybody else?
Right. True. Anika, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of agree with what Ruth is saying, and having the children, I think, shows that to the nth degree, because especially now, I've got a bit of a gap between them, and what my eldest wanted at 12, which is what my youngest is going to be soon, was so different. And now she has this expectation of, oh, well, this is what I should have. Mm-hmm. But it's like, well, do you need it? No, because again, it's a comparison thing, I think. She thinks she wants it. And if I ask her, it's like, well, no, it's not because anybody else wants it, but it's being susceptible to the external influences because of the marketing or other things she's hearing people say. So she has these positive, expectations of, well, I can have it if I work hard, because actually She wanted a phone. We weren't that keen on it. She went out and she saved money for a phone.
For a phone.
Wow.
So there's
Okay.
the side that actually her expectation was, if I work hard, I can get this, which was good.
Okay.
But at the end of it, it's like for a phone. So it's like, well, do you need the phone? Do you really want the phone, but do you need it? So again, it's the comparison. So I don't know. I think it can be good, but I think we've got to look and examine the motivation behind it. Again, comparison, or are you feeling you've got these positive expectations because actually you're fearful that you may not have them or you may not be able to achieve them. So you put them out there so that you've got something to work towards.
And you guys are right. Like, I think I think it's very difficult to say that we have unconditional positive expectation. I think they are conditions tied to all those things, but I think in true sense, having like an unconditional positive expectation, I think is what gives you the true satisfaction of it. That's what I honestly think. Like what it is that you like, if there's something that you're really passionate about and you really love doing, without the fact that you can get more money from it or more clients from it, or you're just doing it because it's something that you love doing, it's not a headache. It's almost like effortless. What do you guys think? Because I mean, I've always, a lot of people, I know that there is such a thing as an effortless hustle, where you are doing it because it's something you love. Like Ruth is a life coach. She's doing it because it's something that she loves, right? But just sometimes I feel like sometimes people go and do something because of the money they can get, or because of the number of clients they can get. But then does that really give you true satisfaction at the end of the day? I guess that's what I struggle with.
So I think you're right, because I think if you chase things that you think you need, you're going to find out actually it doesn't make you happy, and you're not in flow, and it's work and it's effort, and therefore it doesn't bring you joy, and it's not easy. Again, so that's the expectation that it should be easy, and I think you're right there. What you're good at and what you enjoy doing will be easy, and that's a big sign as to whether or not you should be doing it. That's personally what I think. Because again, I've done a lot of things over the years, different careers, and just interests and stuff. Like you say, interests that you think you should have, or you should be doing. And it's like, well, I'm kind of half interested in it, but when I actually spend time doing it, it's not making me happy, and I don't really want to do any more of it. But I'm going to keep doing it because I should. It's the shoulds, I think. I think this is where actually we didn't talk about shoulds. That's a major part of expectations.
Yeah.
Should be doing as opposed to what you want to be doing, and that's the difference. If you do something you want to do, it's effortless, you've got the flow, it's aligned, everything falls into place. Whereas if you're forcing yourself with something you should be doing because you think you should, it's more effort, it's draining more than anything else.
Okay, so then that brings me to my next question, which is not part of the question I said, but like, how do you really know what you should be doing for it to align with your reality? Again, what we're trying to get to is that the expectation that you have aligns with your reality. You have an expectation, for example, I want a car. I don't have I'm not making enough money to get the car. So now my expectation, which I really, really want this car, right? It's not aligning with my reality. That makes me frustrated. That makes me angry. So, again, we want expectations to align with reality. How do we begin to make those two align? How do we begin to make them align with that? Ruth, what do you think?
Yeah, it's a tough, because like I should be earning money to keep a roof over my head and my family's heads. Obviously, my daughter's not here, but when you're a parent, your first thought is I should be earning a salary. And I've done those jobs where I've got to 6 o'clock on a Sunday night and my heart has just sunk because I know I've got to go back to work on the Monday, and I've literally limped in, and that's what I should be doing. So now I'm managing to tune into what I should be doing is to earning a living and paying my bills and my rent and having a car on the road, to what I want to do. So it's finding that, and that's why I always like talk about working in your truth and living in your truth. I did not want to wake up at 65 having done. I was a dancer and I loved it. It wasn't something I did; it was something I was, and I hadn't found that since retiring from dancing, because you can't do it for so long. And I've now found that in the writing that I do and in my life coaching. So yeah, it's having to step into that, and some people don't do it because of the should, because they're stuck in that should. And it's almost like, again, with COVID, it's now put us more into that should, because we're losing so much. We're losing entertainment, we're losing restaurants and places. So yeah, it's that I should be doing this. What I want to be doing is that, and it's finding that level ground. So sometimes with clients where they feel really stuck, what we'll look at is what they love doing, and we'll fill that in as a hobby,
Right.
as a sideline. So say, this is just an example, say somebody always wanted to be an astronaut and they're now working in a bank. We do an astronomy course, and we start looking at ways that we can nurture that side of it, so that we're sort of bringing them to a level, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, we have to do the day job because we have to provide for the family and keep the mortgage going, but we can feed that other side of us too. Just
Anika, what do you think?
Yeah, I agree again. I think, thinking about it, that a big part of that is being intentional. So like you say, you choose, you make a choice to do something, and then you see what you can do to align that and make those things happen. And I think, again, with a lot of the stress that we encounter is where we are not being intentional and we end up being reactive, hence the shoulds. So you're going with what you need to be doing, and you're not thinking, what can I do to align myself to what I want as easily as possible, because you get distracted. And one of the things that I think that I've learned personally is you've got a lot of stress, I guess you can say, where we think we've got problems, but actually, personally, I think that a lot of problems that we have are decisions that we haven't made. So when you make a decision, so you, like you say, Noma, you've decided you want to do something or get something, you've decided. So then you know what you need to decide to ignore or to bring into your life to make that happen. And that can reduce the shoulds to an extent if you're aware, if you're willing to. So that, I think, is a big part of it. So you can have, going back to your last question, the unconditional positive expectation, if you are intentional and you have made a decision, as opposed to your intent, not intentional, you should do something, but you are not willing to or aligned to do what it takes. Because you can make that decision, you're working to get the car or whatever, but you're not willing to stop spending money on clothes to redirect the resources to get the car. So you're not making that decision.
Okay. So you want something, but you're not making the decision.
Yeah. You're not 100%. You've got a problem. It's that classic, I've got a problem. Well, this is what you can do. I don't want to do that. What else can I do?
That's funny. That's real talk. I think a lot of us want something, but we're not willing to take the steps to get what it is that we want. And I think, and you're right, like if you've made a decision that I want this, I want to be able to get this, then you should be willing to take, do what it takes to be able to get to that point. To your point, go ahead, Anika. You were saying.
No, I was just going to say, again, it comes back to perspective, because working with clients that I work with, they come to me and they're like, my business may be struggling, or I know I can do better, but this is my business. This is what I want to do. And they can sometimes be so locked into what it should be and their expectation of what their business looks like or how it should be presented. They've closed themselves off to so many potential opportunities, and it's taking them out of that kind of in the box to out of the box to say, well, actually, your problem is this. Are you willing to make this decision to consider and open up the potential to access more profit, or, achieve things, or expose yourself in areas you didn't think would have been suitable, but actually could be more lucrative than you first thought? But it's being willing to make that decision.
Anika, I didn't hear you after a while. I think you cut out.
Oh no, where did I cut out? Sorry.
No, I just had willing to make that decision.
Oh no,
then,
that's where I stopped. That's what I was saying. They stopped.
Okay, that is true. That is true. I think you have to be willing first. Everything comes with the willingness to even want to take the step anyway. If you're not willing to like want to take the step, then I mean, then you're not ready.
No,
That's what it is. No,
Yeah.
So I want to ask you guys one question. So when the joy about something is there, right? Do you believe that it will, you know, like, do you believe that it will morph into like full realization? And I guess we just gonna answer that all questions about like being willing, first of all, to even see it into actuality. But what do you think? Do you think that when there's a joy about something, do you think that's enough for it to just come into realization, or you actually have to put the work behind it? Because sometimes I see people not even putting any work. Let's be honest. Let's be honest with ourselves here. Like people not even putting any work, but they are very successful. How is that, bro? What do you think?
Do you know, I think it's like I always use this where with students. Victoria Beckham, she said, I'm going to be as famous as Dad. And she didn't worry about how she was going to do that. And sometimes it's the hows that trip us up. And so when I said to students said to me, well, I want to go to America. I said, well, put it down. You're going, well, how am I going to ever do that? And say, don't worry about the hows, just have that ambition and that focus to go there. And I've noticed whenever I see successful people, they haven't thought of the obstacles. They just focused on that finishing line. And that's how they train athletes, and be like, you don't worry about the race so much. You're just getting over that finishing line. And I think that has a huge thing, the positive mindset, the positive affirmations. Affirmations are really good. Hey, how did I get so rich? How did I get so wealthy? How did I get so successful? Why am I so wealthy? And it's that, keep that triggered. Obviously, you don't just lay in a hammock and say that all day. You need to do something towards it. But it's a bit of both. It's a bit of like that positive mindset, and that if it doesn't challenge you, it doesn't change you. Everything I've done, I've had to push for. When I was a dancer, you hurt, you bled through those valley points when you were up there, and you went through that pain. But if you want it, you'll put the work in.
Right.
And if you don't know your why, you're not going to. So the huge amount of people say, I want to do such and such. I say, well, why do you want to do that? And they'll literally be like, they actually don't know the why. So it's knowing your why, not worrying about the hows, and being set on where you want to be and putting the work in. So I think it's like a cake mix, isn't it? It's not going to work if you just have flour. It's not going to work if you just have eggs. You'll just get an omelette. So you need to mix it all up. I'm a rubbish cook, by the way.
No, that's true talk. That's true talk, Ruth. I mean, that's very. It's kind of a little bit of both, like, putting in the work and, I guess like speaking it into existence, like the positive affirmation you say, and also like just being intentional, as Anika said. Like you gotta be intentional. You gotta, just be focused, pretty much. Like
yeah.
True. Anika, what do you think? I mean, I'm sure you probably agree with Ruth, but like,
yeah, I do. And I would just add to that, really, that I think people who are doing things through joy, they have what I would say the magic 3 things which equal inspiration in my mind, where their thoughts, their actions, and their words align. And I think when you have everything aligned that way in your mind, in your body, in what you're doing and saying, it makes things a lot easier, because you're not slowing yourself down with resistance, where you might be thinking something, I've got to think positively, but I don't believe it, or I'm speaking negatively. So then you're kind of fighting against yourself. So that I totally agree with. And also, as you said, Ruth, with not focusing on the how, I really believe in making the decision and not focusing too much on the detail and leaving space for what can be. because if you are prepared, you know, it's that whole adage of hard work and preparation meets opportunity. So you know what you want to do, you've put in the time, and you've got to be open to let it come to you, because there's only so much pushing you can do. And again, if you don't over prescribe how it will happen, great things can happen. But you have to see them as they come into your kind of into your vicinity, because if you're so focused on how something should happen, you're missing opportunities which could actually speed up your route.
Celebrate the little wins in the middle. Keep
moving.
Yeah,
Hello.
You have your down day, you get up and you keep going, take those steps and you'll get there. As well. And I think that's one of the key things that, you know, people can say. Again, it comes back to the alignment. People can be talking the talk, but if they're missing that faith and they don't really believe it, it's going to be so much harder. And I think when you meet somebody who's joyful and doing what they love, they have that faith because it's happened to them, or they know it's coming. And it's having that faith that even if times are rough right now, you know it will get better. And that, for me, I think that was one of the questions that you asked before, is how do you kind of transition with hard times? And that, for me, is this too will pass. I went through a very tough time years ago, and you just sometimes you don't see that it will get better or that it will change, but it will. I don't know about you. I am a summer person. I love the sun.
Yeah.
And every year now, literally in the last week, I was really down, and I was like, I don't know why I feel that way. And then I realized it's getting dark. I don't do well at this time of the year, as it gets dark really early. And likewise, as we come out at in spring, it's like, oh, there's the sun. Why would I think the sun is coming? But you do, because you're so entrenched in the season that you're in, you sometimes forget that it will change.
Wow.
Change is growth. Have you ever heard, you just reminded me of the expression, it may snow in spring, but summer always comes?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. And
I think where we are now with COVID is a perfect example. You know, we were all in for 3 months and we were thinking, is this ever going to get better? And it hasn't. And maybe we're going back a bit. But we did come out, and it wasn't forever. But when we were in it, halfway through, it was like, is this ever going to end? But what we all showed was we adapted and we found a way to cope. And actually, even when you were in it, it became quite pleasant. I don't know about you, but you know, my eldest 17, he's like, oh God, I've got to sit home with my parents forever. For him. But we ended up having a bit of fun. We started doing puzzles and things that we didn't do before because he wasn't at home. So, you know, it got better, and he was happy to get back to school. Don't get me wrong. But painful, you know, towards the end, as he thought it was going to be.
That is so funny, but no, that's true. Honestly, that's true. Honestly, I mean, what do you guys think? What are some steps one can take to really align their expectation with their reality to be happier? You know, because I think, especially during this COVID time, it's very important that expectations really align with our reality, so that we don't bring on any form of, you know, bring onto ourselves any form of negativity or annoyance just because it's not aligning. So what are some steps that you think that, you know, individuals out there can take to be able to align their expectations with their reality? Ruth, and I'm gonna start with you, Ruth.
Okay, I think it's really, it must be so hard. I've been working with some students, and they've just had their whole lives turned upside down, and all these years of studying and stuff. And like we said, it will pass, and we are going to need to change the way we work, change the way we do education, and a lot of things. But I talk a lot about flow state, and it's where you challenge yourself, but you don't challenge yourself so hard that it becomes too difficult and you stop, or it's not so easy that it's not creating that flow state. And be grateful for everything. What can you learn from this situation? I am so grateful to cancer. I know it sounds ridiculous, but cancer taught me that I'm actually strong. It got rid of all those stories. So gratitude is a huge shift. And but a favourite little thing that I think, if we're facing in the right direction, it's a Buddha proverb, all you need is start walking. If you take one step, that's one step. in that direction that's taking you where you need to go. And like, make your expectations real, work smart. I hate all those smart, reasonable things, measurable, achievable, but it's so true that if you push yourself too hard and it becomes impossible, then it's going to be too much, and the expectations just will pull you back to square one. So adaptation, go with the flow, and take little steps.
Beautiful. Anika, what about you? What are some steps that you can advise, individuals out there to take in order to align their expectations with their reality to be happier in life?
So what I kind of, 3 promises that I get clients to kind of promise to themselves as we work through the process is the first thing, which is to, as you said, Ruth, again, stand where you are and accept where you are and start with what you have. So no matter what you've got, be grateful for it, and you've got something that you can work with. So again, getting rid of that comparison. Don't look outside and think, I haven't got this, I can't do that. You've got something you can start with. So just be grateful and find something to work with. The second thing is take responsibility. So it can be hard when things don't go your way, but accept what you can control and control what you can, and then give yourself grace, because there's no point in beating ourselves up. We can only do what we can as long as we are doing something. And that's the third thing, just to keep moving and celebrating, because, momentum brings achievement, brings results. So have a down day, stop, rest. What's the saying? I haven't quit, but I'm resting. I can't remember what it is, but something to that effect. So, don't give up and just keep moving. And every time you achieve something, stop and look at it and celebrate it. Because, I think one of those things, you can get so focused on getting to the point, you don't look back and realize what you've achieved. And it is a journey. It's not just about getting the final result, but enjoying. It's not always enjoyable, it's not always joyful. It doesn't. But you'll look back and you're like, well, actually, that was good. As you said, Ruth, some of the worst events and situations can be a blessing in disguise. So it's appreciating that and recognizing it.
Yeah. Bumpy roads make us strong.
I didn't hear you, Ruth. Say that again.
I said sometimes the bumpiest roads make us strong.
Yeah.
So it's like, when we're flying down a motorway, it's so easy, but we miss seeing stuff. Whereas, when you're going down little country roads and you're having to sort of stop and smell the roses type of thing, it's that, like you said, Anika, it's that journey. It's beautiful.
Yeah. I mean, I think if you speak to anybody, they remember the things that were hardest, but they've always grown, or there's something they can take from that.
Right.
And the things that you get easy, you don't really remember, do you?
No.
True. Yeah.
Facts. That's true. That's true.
Guys, you make the kids work for everything. No, I'm kidding.
I didn't hear that. No,
I said that's why you make the kids work for everything. I'm so mean. I don't give them everything. Well, you it.
Oh, that's funny. Guys, I want to thank you so much. I think we really had fun, just conversing. I think it's a very important topic that people struggle with every day, just expectations versus their reality. And I think I love what it is that you guys said in your advice. I think you're right. Start with what you have first. Start from there and then work your way to wherever it is you want to be at. But you have to be aware of what it is that you have. You have to be aware of what state that you're currently in. Acknowledge that before you even start trying to, improve or get better or what have you. I want to thank you, Anika, and I want to thank you, Ruth, for taking the time out to come on here to chat with me. I know it's late in the UK.
It's like midnight.
It's like midnight, right?
It's midnight.
Here, like cutting it off. I love it. I love the energy. I love the smiles. I love the contribution. I love the authenticity. I want to thank you guys for being very open and just, sharing a little bit about yourself and also giving good advice to the audience. I want to thank my sister, Skipper Production, for putting this whole production together and, helping us out, with the screens. Guys, it's been another episode again, and I really enjoy talking with you guys and just conversing with you guys. If I was to leave you with three things, I would just say, just be aware, stay positive, and then just continue to strive for greatness, because there's nothing wrong with expecting, as long as you're doing it, very, like, how would I put it? You're doing it like positive. And not trying to compare or trying to, look at somebody else's own journey and think that's going to be your journey. It's going to be your own thing. It's unique to you. So just continue to walk in your own stride and continue to grow from it. Until next time, guys, thank you so much for hanging with your girl. Have a wonderful Saturday and stay blessed. Bye.